Welcome back to SQL University. In part 1 of our walkthrough to SQL Management Studio, we looked at the basics of what's available to you within Management Studio. In this second video, we're going to look at a few more basic things. The first thing we're going to do is how to run a query against your database. Now you can do it several ways. One, you can just come up right here to the New Query button and press that. And what that'll do is that'll open a brand new query window for you over here to the right. Now, one thing you'll notice is that right here there is a drop down and it says master. It defaults to the master database when you create a new query. That's something you have to be careful about because you don't necessarily want to be running queries against your master database or any of your system databases unless you know what you're doing. If you click on the drop down, you can see a list of all the different user databases that are available to you on that instance. In this case, I see all my AdventureWorks databases and a few others. So we're just going to connect to one of the AdventureWorks. Now, another way of doing a query against a particular database is by opening up this databases folder, right-clicking on a specific database, and going here to the new query option. When you do that, it'll open up a new window. And down here at the bottom, we can see which database that we're connected to when we do that. That's pretty important that you want to pay attention to. Up here, you can see active files, so we can actually flip back and forth between several different queries. Here's the first one I open, and down here you can see that it's actually connected to another database. Another basic tool that you're going to want to do is up here in the Tools menu. Tools menu, you have a couple of other very powerful tools built in the SQL Server. First one we're going to look at is SQL Server Profiler. Now, Profiler is actually just that. It takes a profile of what's going on against your SQL Server. So when we open up Profiler, we're asked to connect to a server. So we're going to connect to the database that, or rather the server that we were working on before, and we're greeted with this trace properties. Now, there are some built-in templates for traces. You can look at T-SQL, one that's looking only at T-SQL duration, or for query tuning. Right now we're going to stick with the standard template. Over here on the Events tab, you're going to see all the different events that this particular template is going to be looking at. So here you can see it's going to be auditing any accounts that are logging into this SQL instance, logging out, showing any existing connections, any stored procedures that are fired. I like to check this box right here just so we can see all the text data that runs against the instance. And under T-SQL we can see what completed and what's starting. One thing you'll notice is that as I'm moving my mouse around, this description box changes. This is to let you know what exactly is that option that you're looking at. So here we're seeing the SQL batch starting occurs when a T-SQL batch is starting, and then the text data column tells us the text value dependent on the event class. And it's got all those descriptions for any column, so you have pretty good idea of what it is that you're going to be looking at. So we're just going to press run real quick and let it start. And what you're seeing is a live view of anything that's going against the Adama server. So here you can see that the report server just completed some transactions. But let's try to capture something. We're going to go over here and we're going to take a look at the AdventureWorks database. We're going to open it up, open up a table, and we're going to look at all the records that are under currency. So I right click on the table, select top 1000 rows, and I get 105 rows. But on the profiler side, you can actually see up here Well, we're going to stop the trace. But up here, you're going to be able to see that the username Jorge connected, asked to use the AdventureWorks database, and I selected a specific query, and down here you can see everything that happened. And this becomes an extremely invaluable tool for a database administrator, because if somebody says a query is running slow, you can actually see exactly what's being sent to your database and anything else that's possibly going on, because you don't know if that query is running 100 times a minute. Later on in the semester, we will get into performance tuning, and we'll deep dive a little bit more into the SQL Server Profiler, but that's just kind of a taste of it. The next tool is the Database Engine Tuning Advisor. Now, when you do a trace against a SQL Server, you can actually save all those actions that are happening against your database and replay it again later. Now, the advantage of that is that you can take all of those queries that are happening against your production database and replay them against your test database and see if everything's acting the same, meaning that are the queries coming back in the same amount of time? Are they slower? Are they faster? Are the indexes the same? All sorts of stuff. So again, here we see you're asked to connect to a certain database, and it's running a little bit slow because it's on a VM. It's all good. But basically what the Engine Tuning Advisor does is takes that replay and runs it, and SQL Server has some internal intelligence, and it can take a look and make some suggestions to you based on the kind of workload that is being put against your database. And it suggests some improvements, such as adding indexes or dropping indexes. Now, a word of warning, don't take everything that the advisor says as complete truth. Think of it more as a suggestion to look in certain places. Before you start adding indexes or dropping indexes, just know that you can actually cause more damage by just randomly throwing indexes and not understanding what you're doing. So you could actually make things worse. Again, later this semester when we're doing performance tuning, we'll take a look at Tuning Advisor, but I just wanted you to see what it looked like. And that's it for part 2 of SQL Server Management Studio.